IsReal News Deep Dive. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Gaza policy, and the battle over October 7th accountability. This week, Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu released documents tied to investigations into the October 7th, 2023 Hamas attack, renewing debate over responsibility, decision-making, and political positioning ahead of possible elections. The materials include selected excerpts from security discussions spanning nearly a decade. The release comes as official inquiries into the failures surrounding the attack remain unresolved. Netanyahu published a 55-page response submitted to the state comptroller, along with supporting excerpts from cabinet protocols and security deliberations. Officials say the materials were intended to show that Netanyahu had repeatedly supported targeted actions against Hamas leadership, while senior security officials urged restraint. The Prime Minister has authority, subject to legal procedure, to release and redact such documents. But opposition figures and some current and former security officials disputed the presentation. They say the excerpts were selective and incomplete and called for access to full, unredacted protocols. Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, who was later dismissed during the war, publicly challenged parts of the timeline and decisions described in the release. The development follows ongoing debate in Israel over how to investigate the October 7th attack. A state comptroller probe was launched, but later frozen by the High Court of Justice. Netanyahu has called for a different form of inquiry with membership split between government and opposition. Polling in Israel has shown broad public support for a state commission of inquiry appointed through judicial channels. The documents highlight long-running disagreements inside Israel's leadership over Gaza policy. Netanyahu stated that he considered conquering Gaza at multiple points, but that the security establishment warned of high costs, limited international legitimacy, and the absence of a governing alternative to Hamas. He also cited discussions in which security chiefs argued against assassinating senior Hamas leaders. Some former officials and reports have presented differing accounts. According to statements by past security leaders and media reports, proposals to target Hamas leadership were sometimes blocked by political leadership. Netanyahu's own memoir, published before the October 7th attack, described his opposition to a full-scale military effort to overthrow Hamas during the 2014 Gaza conflict, citing the anticipated civilian toll and the prospect of Israel governing Gaza long-term. The released materials include excerpts from meetings in 2014, 2016, 2021, and 2023, showing debates over deterrence, economic policy toward Gaza, and the feasibility of removing Hamas from power. They also include selected notes from the weeks before October 7th, indicating that some security assessments viewed Hamas as seeking to avoid escalation at that time. Netanyahu's response presents a timeline of events on the morning of October 7th and argues that key intelligence was not conveyed to him in advance. Reports citing security protocols and statements from officials have challenged elements of that account. The issue is unfolding within a broader political context. Israel is preparing for possible elections by 2026, and security policy toward Gaza remains a central political dividing line. Netanyahu has positioned himself as advocating a tougher stance toward Hamas, while rivals argue that government policy in the years before the attack relied on containment, economic incentives, and limited military action. Structural questions remain unresolved. These include how intelligence warnings were processed, how decision-making authority was shared between political and military leadership, and what mechanisms will ultimately investigate the failures of October 7th. The balance between civilian oversight and security autonomy is also under renewed scrutiny. What comes next will depend on institutional decisions and political developments. The High Court's freeze on the comptroller probe remains in place. Debate continues over whether to establish a formal state commission of inquiry. Lawmakers are seeking fuller access to classified protocols, and the approaching electoral cycle is shaping how leaders present their records and policies to the public. For now, the competing accounts underscore a central reality. The investigation into October 7th is still incomplete, and the official determination of responsibility has yet to be made. You've been listening to Deep Dive from IsReal News.